Aaron Whitlow.
Brandon Spivey, and welcome back to the Markout Movie Podcast.
We're doing here again. No. This episode we are going to be talking about Here, the Robert Zamekcis film that came out last year, starring Tom Hanks, Robin Wright, Paul Bettany, the lady that plays Beth on Yellowstone, I forget her name, and
Kelly Riley, is that it?
Kelly Riley sounds right. Let's see. It is, as you stated, Kelly Riley. Yeah, that's it. As Rose. So this movie it takes place in one spot, one location, throughout time. First, briefly through like the what are the dinosaurs, then later Native Americans, then later colonial period with like Benjamin Franklin's illegitimate son, and then you see them chopping down a tree. You see them where they're going to build the house where the movie takes place, and then different families that had lived in that house throughout time.
Yeah.
One of those families being Tom Hanks and Robin Wright and Paul Bettany. Is it Bettany?
Bettany.
And Kelly Riley as the parents. As we started shooting this before and we kind of had to redo it, but we mentioned the best parts of this movie is Paul Bettany.
Yeah.
Easily the best part of this movie. And like on the screen right now, you see the other family that kind of moves in. It's an African American family that kind of moves in like after Tom Hanks now. I guess the family after Tom Hanks.
Yeah, I would assume because it looks like modern, like today's.
Yeah.
Time.
And
they have a little maid.
You see Westaing's house back there. You see the Benjamin Franklin's son's house in the background.
Yeah.
Like, so they're across the street from that house. So, but would have been part of their property at one point in time where the house sits. But yeah, this movie, it takes place. I have it on screen kind of for reference, but this movie is, I don't know, man. It could have been, I think it could have been great, but I think it falls short. And I don't know who do you blame in that. Do you blame Robert Zamekcis? Do you blame?
I mean, you got to.
You can't blame the cast because they did what they come to do, right?
I mean, they do, but I think when you bring in Tom Hanks,
mm-hmm.
Robin Wright, and you got Robert Zamekcis as your filmmaker, and you know this is like a reunion type film for Forrest Gump.
Mm-hmm.
You got some big shoes to fill. Having those two people working off each other because you know what they did in Forrest Gump, or you remember.
Mm-hmm.
You have fond memories of that movie anyway, and it didn't get none of that between them. The chemistry wasn't as good here today that it was back in 93, 94, whenever that movie was made.
And the thing is, Forrest Gump, for what it's worth, whether, like, I don't choose to watch Forrest Gump. Like, if it's on TV, I may watch, depending on what scene it's on. But I'm not like, hey, you want to watch a movie? Let's watch Forrest Gump. But I think Forrest Gump is such a great movie. It's so quotable.
Yeah.
And that you can, like, go back to Greenbow, Alabama, or, just the movie's quotable and memorable enough that it's easily one of the best Robert Zemeckis films. Yeah. Whereas I don't feel like this movie would never be in that competition. I think this movie is so forgettable.
I mean, you compare it to Forrest Gump or any of their greats,
mm-hmm.
whether it's Tom Hanks' greats or Robert Zemeckis. Here is not going to be mentioned. It's not going to be remembered for being a great or memorable film. I think if people do remember this movie for anything, it'll be memorable for the way it was shot.
Yeah.
It's one particular room, and And while that's interesting, it's kind of lackluster at the same time because you felt there was potential here with this type of story, but you don't get to see everything you fully polished. Like you're almost handcuffed. I feel like this film is kind of handcuffed.
I want to ask you this question. Just looking at Robert Zemeckis.
He's got a weird.
Zemeckis, I want to say plural. Zemeckis' filmography. I think he can. I was wondering. You know how Tim Burton keep using Johnny Depp and got to a point where his stuff becomes stale. Mm-hmm. I feel that Robert Zemeckis is hit that stride with time because Pinocchio, he was in Pinocchio.
That was bad.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? He also did Welcome to Marvin, but that's Steve Carell, ain't it?
Yeah,
which I like Steve. But
he did have one with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, but Walking the Tightrope.
A Christmas Carol, is that him with Jim Carrey?
Jim Carrey, yeah.
Beowulf was terrible.
So with Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, that's very the CGI.
I liked it when I watched it. I hadn't seen it in years though.
I don't think it was 2007. But and then Polar Express, which granted, I never really truly liked Polar Express, but I will say that I think it is a Christmas legendary film.
Yeah, I think for Christmas.
Kids love and it's memorable in a sense because he's still like we was talking about in the first time we was trying to do this, how he uses technology to do interesting and innovative things, like in Forrest Gump, the cutting him through it, like Tom Hanks, Forrest Gump throughout time in certain periods seamlessly, and you like, oh, it's like I wonder if they were in that because it looks like
I had never thought about it until now, but I can kind of compare Forrest Gump to Elvis, the way they shot that movie. I mean, the tones are very different, but it's shot in a certain way through times, special times like meeting JFK, in the military, running the football. Everything was. What was it? Vietnam, right?
Vietnam, yeah.
Yeah, it was that time period, and it just. I really liked it. I liked how it was shot, and it felt like the '60s, and just kind of like how Elvis felt like 50s, 60s, and 70s. Like it true. I felt like I was there living the heyday of Elvis.
It just the best. We mentioned the best part of this movie is Paul Bettany. He just like as a father that struggles with alcoholism, and just he's down and out because he gets fired from a job he really didn't like. But he got fired and he feels like he can't provide for his family. He turns to the bottle because of the war. He just like he's injured. He's deaf because of the war. He has like just so much trauma and stuff, and he carries it. And the way he kind of treats and lashes out at his family. But then at one point he kind of turns a leaf and becomes a better man. I feel like. It's just like his story was remarkable, but I feel like nobody else in this movie like could come up to his level of performance.
It's unbelievable to say that because he's working with Tom Hanks.
He's working with Tom Hanks, like literally, arguably one of the greatest actors to ever live.
And I've been on record for saying this. I've never seen anyone outperform Tom Hanks. But in this movie, Paul Bettany outperformed Tom Hanks. And I don't believe it's due to Tom Hanks of lack of effort or anything. I just feel it's the way the movie was shot.
And the blame solely has to land on Robert Zemeckis' shoulders. But yeah, I was talking about how he uses technology and stuff to kind of like even with Polar Express, how he rotoscoped not rotoscoped, but kind of made every character or most characters Tom Hanks in certain forms. Like the little boy was Tom Hanks, a young Tom Hanks. There's an older Tom Hanks. The conductor was Tom Hanks. I think Santa was Tom Hanks. Like just like the way that he did that is pretty genius, and it's something memorable that you will remember. But I think this movie, with it being in this one location, doesn't we're looking at a de-aged Tom Hanks and Robin Wright right now, and it you can see you like it kind of remind me of what young Tom looks like, but like you said, something about it just seems off.
Yeah,
right.
His hair's off, but it's just weird. It's I don't know. It's an uneasy feeling looking at Tom Hanks being de-aged.
Yeah, because we grew up seeing Tom, and the way that you can look at this and compare it to like literally, Big is the best experience as far as young Tom.
Or even the
Bosom
Burbs.
Buddies, you've seen Bosom Buddies.
I've never seen that show.
Oh, I thought you watched it.
No.
Okay.
We had planned to watch it, but we never did watch it. I think the earliest movie I've seen Tom Hanks in was probably Bachelor Party.
Yeah, that's young, very young Tom. That's like 82, 83.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously I love the Burbs, but he's a little older in the Burbs. He's still young, but he's a little older. The Red Shoe. I don't like. There's so many money pits. There's like so many young Tom Hanks movies when he was younger, and then you watch this movie and you're like, yeah, I know it's Tom Hanks. Yeah. I know it's supposed to be a young Tom, but
something's just off.
Kind of like, and Martin. We talked about Martin Scorsese. It's kind of like The Irishman with a de-aged De Niro, and Pesci. I think Joe Pesci was de-aged too in that movie, right? Was Joe Pesci de-aged? Not as much as De Niro. I don't
recall Pesci being de-aged.
Maybe it's just De Niro.
But definitely De Niro. But he's all over that movie. Was Pacino de-aged?
Maybe. It's been so long since I've seen it. But I feel like with De Niro in that film, he was. You could tell he's a 70-something-year-old man.
Yeah, the way he walked.
Being de-aged to a young man. Like when he's like attacking someone, you're like, you're old, bro. You can tell that it's an old man acting, you know. Yeah. Whereas in this movie, I guess it just relies on this one shot and people coming in and out the house. These people, this is like the family after Tom Hanks' family that moved in. You don't spend a lot of time with them to really,
you
kind of feel for them.
Yeah, you don't really, you're not invested because Robert didn't invest in that family.
Yeah, I don't think you really invest in. You invested mainly in Tom Hanks' family. I think he invested secondly in maybe the airplane people family.
Yeah.
And then the Lazy Boy guy's family, and I would say Benjamin Franklin them's family, and lastly, the family after Tom Hanks.
But yeah, I get what he was trying to do.
Well, in the Native Americans.
All these families live in this house, and they all go through the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's why I said the first time we were shooting, I said it's like rinse and repeat. Different families, same outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
And I get what he's saying. It's just I feel like this particular project would have worked better as a TV show if you're shooting his style, especially with the style, because it kind of reminds me The Office in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a certain style you're shooting in, and I just feel that works better as a TV show than it does a full feature. But regardless, you just didn't get to spend as much time with these other families to truly invest, except for the main family. And you're truly invested in Paul Bettany and
Kelly Riley.
Yeah. Those two characters is what gets you invested in the movie if you're going to be invested. Yeah. Tom Hanks and Robin Wright, they are there. They give solid performances, but you're just not invested in the same way that you are with his mom and dad.
I would agree with that. I would also argue and say the moment that spoilers. So the moment that like Tom Hanks's mom dies, the dynamic, it's kind of shifted.
Yeah.
And you felt terrible for Paul Bettany's character, Al, and then later when he dies, you kind of felt like what's left here, you know. And then like obviously at some point, Robin is like, "I'm leaving you. I can't do this anymore. I got to get out and do other things."
I see that's my problem with this movie. Why is she so upset?
Yeah, it doesn't really explain.
You don't explain why you're so unhappy with this house. What about it is it this house that upset you so much by living in it? We never got to see her side, or it's just this little room, or it's not a little room, but it's just this living room, and we don't really get to understand why she hates the house so much.
And then, like towards the very end of it, when he brings her back in the house, and that's when the camera finally moves, and just kind of pulls in on Robin and Tom, and she's kind of saying, she says, "I love it here. I love it here. Like I love this. I love being here," because she starts to remember certain things. Like I thought that this scene right here, the wedding scene, like when he keeps trying to use the camera and the plug, he keeps coming unplugged, and you can tell his frustration.
I thought this was the funniest moment in the movie, and it's not supposed to be funny.
Yeah, and it's just like he just keeps the father.
And I even love how it's raining.
Yeah,
it's everything just seems to go wrong.
And the father tends to he loves technology, because he's always he has different cameras throughout the whole thing. Yeah, but that's just like I'm saying, Paul Bettany, and he's doing physical performance right here. Like I don't think that people should overlook his performance. I think he did such a great job.
Yeah, you said this movie had Oscar bait. If there's anyone that should be considered for an Oscar from this particular movie, it's Paul Bettany.
Absolutely. I think easily, only person should be even looked at for Academy Award would be Paul Bettany. I don't think anyone else, even director, would be nominated. Clearly, Paul.
Cinematography maybe, just because it's the one room, and it's an interesting idea to do for a full feature.
Yeah.
To shoot a movie in one particular room, and through many generations of families that have lived here.
Mm-hmm.
But that would be my only way I would give it Oscar bait is the cinematographer.
I would say this part right here is when his dream dies of being an artist. Because when she's like, "Hey, I'm pregnant," and stuff like that, and he realized, I got to get a job. I got to support my family. And
that's honestly, that kind of does happen.
Mm-hmm. Like, because you like, oh,
my life is over.
Yeah.
It's about the child that's coming.
Matter of fact, Paul Bettany says it when he's talking about that he got her pregnant, and she's having a kid. He's like, why are you screwing your life up? What are you doing? Like, what makes you, decide to do this? Why not? Did you think I wanted to give up my life, my dreams, and stuff like that? And like, he's just really going in on him. But I don't know, man. I feel like the movie does little certain things. Like you see like a little box, and then it's going to go to a different time period, or keep in that time period and then change around it. And just showing you like throughout the generations how things is in the house, but it just, I don't think that Paul Bettany's knocked out in that chair, by the way. But nothing really holds you to this film, I feel like, other than Paul, his wife, Yeah,
once they kind of go off the screen, you're just not as invested in the characters of them. Rose and I can't remember Paul Bettany's character's name, but
Al.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You just weren't invested the same way, and
that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean it's shot. I mean, it's not shot bad or anything.
See, this is when she kind of forgets, like, why did I come in here? No. It's like they have a leak in the house, right?
Yeah.
And he's drawing his dad trying to fix this thing, and his dad probably getting frustrated, like, what are you doing? Help me. But it's just like, That's crazy how someone outshines Tom Hanks in his own movie, but it happens.
Yeah, occasionally it happens to everybody. I mean,
Oh, that's interesting. So, like they thematically, it does like little things to tie things together. Like in the scene prior to this scene, uh, there's a leak in the ceiling, and rain and water and stuff is spilling on the floor. Then it goes into where Robin Wright is having her child, and her water breaks.
Yeah.
And
rinse and repeat.
And she has everything happens in this room. Like she literally has the baby in the room. The mom dies in this room. Somebody else dies in the house.
Yeah.
I think the dad dies. I think Paul Bettany's character dies in the house.
Other dude died in the house.
Yeah, just like a lot of things happen, which I don't know how realistic that is. Like the idea that everybody just happened to die in this one spot. In history, people may die in the same spot, but like in that specific family, everybody like pretty much died in that room, other than Tom and Robin and the kids that went off that you never see ever again. And they had a kid, they had a daughter. Or something.
I just feel like this movie had too much going on, and they weren't. Well, Robert wasn't. He was trying to tell everything.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like it would have worked better as a TV show in that aspect. But obviously you're not gonna get Tom Hanks
to do a TV show.
He's a movie star. I mean, he's not gonna do it.
He hasn't done TV shows since
The Bosom Buddies.
Bosom Buddies.
Bosom.
Yeah, Bosom Buddies. I don't think.
Not Bosom.
But
Bosom.
But he's produced television. He produced HBO, like
he does.
Band of Brothers. He produced that.
But he doesn't have time to commit.
I don't think he has time to commit to actually acting, in something like on a weekly basis.
Yeah, because he's constantly busy making films. I mean.
But with that being said, you have seen a lot of actors that is primarily known for movies. Going to like Sylvester Stallone with Tulsa King.
Arnold too.
Arnold.
Fubar.
Yeah, you got people that says, all right, let me do small screen.
But I feel the guy that really started that was Kiefer Sutherland with 24.
Yeah,
he was known he wasn't like this big movie star, but he was known for making movies. And he kind of went into that role, and it changed his career. And now he's more of a TV star.
Yeah.
But
I love seeing when Kiefer pops up in anything. What was I watching recently? And I was watching Juror number 2, a movie.
Great.
I loved it.
So good.
I loved it. And Kiefer's in it, and I was like, I marked out. I was like, Kiefer Sutherland, and I just like, man, such a great movie, it's like a different take on 12 Angry Men, and I love it.
Oh.
It's how I thought. That's how I thought about it. I thought about it as 12 Angry Men.
Actually,
like
that is probably my favorite.
With Jack Lemmon. I just felt
that's my favorite Jack Lemmon movie.
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah, it's what I recommend. I recommend you watch it.
And it's supposed to be Eastwood's last movie, and
Oh, they buried it. Like the studio buried it, and
that's
didn't
why
give it.
Everyone's had such a problem with Warner Brothers here recently with how they treated Eastwood. And I get it. Like, I also get their point of view. Mm-hmm. Eastwood's 90-something. They're like, he's not the same Clint Eastwood as he has been.
I say this. This movie probably had a bigger budget than Juror number 2.
I'd say you're probably right.
But I feel like Eastwood outshined this movie by leaps and bounds. Like, that movie is... I wish I could consider it a movie of 2025 because it would make my best list.
Sure, number 2?
Yeah. It came out in 2024, but I watched it recently and I was like, I was glued to it, and I was like, I love this movie.
Hands down, Clint Eastwood is the best actor turned filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
Like
people don't give him enough respect, man. Like Gran Torino is like one of the greatest movies.
Yeah. I mean,
Blood Work. He did he understands film, not just as an actor but as a director.
Like one of the greatest westerns ever made was when Western for passed its prime was Unforgiven.
Unforgiven, yeah.
And the performance
and he brought Morgan Freeman back to the forefront too.
And
with
even
that.
Gene Hackman. I've never seen Gene Hackman play a villain until that movie, and I was like, and then he went to do it again in Absolute Power, and Clint and Gene, they have magnificent chemistry. But Clint's just, man, he's just someone I respect so much when you're talking filmmaking. I mean, I'm not going to put him on a pedestal of a Spielberg or Scorsese, but as far as actors turned filmmakers, I don't think anyone can touch
that's
them.
A different category. Actors turned filmmakers. That's a great category. Had never thought about like actually taking that serious.
And I remember someone asked him in an interview, why do you choose these type of movies to direct? He's like, I pick these type of movies because these are the type of movies I want to see. It's not an ego thing. I don't just make my own movies because I have an ego. It's just the type of movies I want to see.
Yeah. Even that last movie that he acted in, they directed and he actually acted in, was excellent, but back to this movie real quick and we can end it. I felt like this movie, I'm ready to get my marks, I guess. Anything else you want to say about it?
I mean, we said so much. It's kind of gotten lost on what we have said, but I was.
Come on. I wonder if my dad was here.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's an interesting idea to shoot in one room, but I feel like so much was missed.
Yeah,
a missed opportunity.
And so many people you forget about their kids. You forget about his siblings.
You shouldn't forget these people.
Like nobody it's at the end of the day, this movie's forgettable.
What they should have done, what Robert Zemeckis should have done, is just focused on this family. Yeah. Not who lived there before or after.
I agree.
Just this family.
I agree. Even if it was still in one spot. Yeah. You could have just told the story of this family in this spot. And
I get what he was trying to do, but it just didn't come off.
It becomes distracting every time it switches to another story. Yeah. And then you kind of might get interested in their story, but then it switches back and you're like, well, shoot.
Yeah, I kind of got interested in the Benjamin Franklin story. Then, which he didn't last. He didn't stay in that period too long. Which he didn't stay in the periods too long with anybody except for Tom Hanks's family. Yeah. And Paul Bettany, But I got what he was trying to do. It just didn't come off the right way.
And Robin Wright's character is always unhappy and unhappy. Like she's like, I hate this couch. I'm gonna change this couch, and then she gets a new couch, and eventually has to get enough furniture, and she just nothing really made her happy.
Yeah, they didn't go into that too much. Like, why is she so unhappy? Yeah. What is it about her life that makes her so unhappy?
And see, this is terrible. This don't even look good. This version of Tom, when he gets a little older and they get married and stuff. They are already married, but it just. Yeah, this movie, man, I would give it on the Marquette meter 2.5. 2.5 for Paul Bettany. I thought Paul was great, but I think this movie is forgettable, and I'll totally forget that I've watched this movie. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna go higher.
Oh,
it's not higher. Because I liked it. It's like creatively I.
Give it its props.
I give it its props. I appreciate the film more than I like it. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go 3.5. Okay. Just on that aspect that it's an original film, the way it's shot and stuff, and it's just. And Paul Bettany's amazing in this movie. He's truly captivating in this movie, and he outperforms Tom Hanks, which that should be your reason to watch right there. Someone outshines Tom Hanks in Tom Hanks' own movie. But yeah, I appreciate the movie. I appreciate what it was trying to do. It just didn't land the way I wanted it to when I was watching it, which I didn't really know what this movie was going to be about. Robert Zemeckis, Tom Hanks.
It's that part where I was talking about, where he's like, nobody will ever remember my father. something like that. Like nobody remember the great Benjamin Franklin. And then like years later, there being Benjamin Franklin in the house. You know, it was like okay, that's cute.
Yeah, I mean you get it, but at the same time it's kind of unnecessary.
Yeah. Yeah, this movie is pretty much unnecessary. That's a good summary of this movie. It's pretty unnecessary. Yeah. All right. Well, next week is my choice, and if we get to go see the Wolfman movie, then maybe I choose Wolfman. But if not, then I was planning on choosing Rush Hour.
The first one.
The first one.
Okay.
Because they're on Netflix now, and like all three of them. I'm like, I was gonna choose it last year because I wanted to do like Rush Hour, like all three the trilogy.
The fourth one has been announced.
Yeah, so I wanted to do Rush Hour, but yeah, I like Rush Hour, and I love to revisit it. I hadn't seen it in so long.
Rush Hour.
Yeah, yeah. Do you understand the words coming out of my mouth? What do we want people to do? Right? Understand
the words that are coming out of our mouth. I like to let people who like to talk a lot to see how full of shit they are.
See, we might have to do Rush Hour, but yeah. But what do we want the people to do that watch this podcast?
Enjoy this episode. You want to see more? Click that like, click that subscribe, comment, share the Mark Out Movie Podcast. I think that's all.
Yep. Check us out on YouTube. This is going to be on YouTube. That's pretty much all I'm posting is on YouTube. We were doing live stuff, but there's no need to do live, man. Comment below. Let us know what movies you like us to see. And this year, we're going to plan on seeing some movies as well. But yeah, we thank you for paying attention, watching. Aaron Whitlow.
Brandon Spivey.
Thank you for marking out with us here on the Mark Out Movie Podcast.